All right, welcome back to One Bills Live. We are less than 2 weeks away from the NFL Combine when the pre-draft process begins in earnest. And already on BuffaloBills.com, it has begun. Mock Draft Watch 1.0 is already up on BuffaloBills.com. Mock Draft Watch 2.0 will be coming your way on BuffaloBills.com next week. But we have a little teaser preview here as Maddy compiles these lists every pre-draft season to let you know what the draftniks are thinking about the Bills, who this year are technically at pick 27, with Miami forfeiting their pick at 20, I think they were.
Mm-hmm. So number 27, that pick for the Bills, we've tracked 35 mock drafts overall so far. And the latest crop that you'll see released on BuffaloBills.com later next week, we tracked 22 mock drafts. So of those 22, do you want to guess what position was our most mocked position? First time around, it was running back.
Yeah.
We've got another position taking the lead in the latest mock drafts.
Okay. I'm only going to guess this because I've seen his name a lot. I'm going to say safety / DB, because I've seen that Branch kid from Alabama mocked to the Bills a ton lately.
He has been. So safety was mocked to the Bills 5 times of the 22 mock drafts that I tracked in this version, this 2.0 version of the mock draft watch. The overall favorite position in the latest crop, offensive line.
Oh, good.
8 of them.
All right. People are coming around to our way of thinking here.
8 times offensive linemen were mocked to the Buffalo Bills. Of those 8 position breakdown, interior offensive line 6 times, offensive tackle once, and then you have an offensive tackle, offensive guard once, who I think is going to be an offensive guard. That's Cody Mock, who somebody put OT, OG for positions that he could play.
All right. I'm about that. I'm all about that.
But the favorite of the offensive lineman was an offensive guard, Osiris Torrance, out of Florida. He's got some pretty crazy measurables, that guy does. So next to safety, 5 times safeties were mocked to the Buffalo Bills. Tied with safety, running back. 5 times running backs were mocked to the Buffalo Bills. Bijan Robinson also tied with Osiris Torrance, being mocked to the Bills 4 times.
I know running backs get devalued in the draft, but if he is as special as everybody says he is, there is no way this guy is getting to 27. Yes. We had Sam Acho on the show last week, who is a Texas Longhorns alum. He's very plugged in to the Texas program, and he raves about Bijan Robinson. And I said, all right, so if he's that great, even at running back, there's no way he's getting to 27. And he goes, I'll be shocked if he gets out of the top 15 picks. Yeah. He thinks he's a top half of round 1 prospect, even though running backs get devalued. So he said, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. He said he wouldn't put him quite on the Saquon Barkley level, but he said he's not far off.
Yeah.
So to me, Saquon went, 2nd overall? And I realize quarterbacks can push any position group down if they're valued highly enough. But if I'm trusting Sam Acho, who's plugged into the program, watches every game, has seen a lot of this kid, I don't know that he even gets to 27 to consider.
Yeah, I don't think so. That's been the consensus from, and yes, the people who are releasing mock drafts right now, a lot of them know what they're talking about. But at this point in the offseason, Peter Schrager said it on Good Morning Football today, and I'm sure a lot of the people making these mock drafts agree with him, is that it's tough to do these mock drafts right now when you haven't had the combine yet and when you don't know what's happening in free agency. The combine gives you a little bit more of a peek into what guys are doing, what if it's their health, if it's their measurables, if it's their 40 time, if it's just general managers and what the chatter is coming out of the NFL Combine. That kind of gives you maybe a look into what teams are going to do with that first pick that they have in the first round of the NFL Draft. Bijan Robinson, like you said, I don't think he's going to be there at number 27 for the Bills to take. And I'm okay with that because I don't think running back is the right choice for the Bills for that first pick in the first round of the draft when they have a lot of other places that they really need depth in. You mentioned safety, Antonio Johnson out of Texas A&M. He was mocked to the Bills three times in the latest mock draft watch 2.0. So that was another favorite name. Wide receiver, we saw wide receivers mocked to the Bills. Only 3 out of the 22 that we tracked were wide receivers, which I thought was a little bit shocking. I thought we would see a few more numbers there. Zay Flowers was the favorite name of the wide receivers out of Boston.
A little bit small, but definitely a great route runner, separator. So I would understand why people would mock him to the Bills, but I think we have guys that are that size already in the receiving core. I'd be more inclined, unless you have somebody that's such a ridiculous route runner that they are always open, quote unquote. And he is kind of that. He's cut from that cloth. The size would worry me, though.
Zay Flowers, 5'10", 172 pounds. So that's that size that you're talking about.
And I think 5'10" is generous.
Yeah. The other wide receiver that was mocked to the Buffalo Bills. This was the first trade that I've seen for the Bills in a mock
we're doing
draft.
Trades already. Okay.
So, the Bills trading up to number 20 via the Seattle Seahawks, trading away that first round pick, number 27, and trading
Seattle
away.
has 2 picks in the first round, so I could see
trading away their third round pick as well. So the first and the third.
The Bills give up a 1 and a 3 to go up 7 spots.
To go up 7 spots. And with that pick, number 20, they decide to draft Jordan Addison out of USC. 6 feet, 174 pounds.
Yeah. I like Addison a lot.
Yeah.
I would be very surprised if he slides that far. Yeah. You know, that's a guy that if he's still there, I could see a team making that kind of move from the lower 20s to go get him. He's a dynamic player. Not a physical player by any means, because as you mentioned, he's only 175 pounds, soaking wet. But he is a dynamic route runner. When I watch Jordan Addison run routes, he actually reminds me a little bit of Diggs. Just with how sharp and precise his route running is, which is saying something. But I don't know. I'm getting a little picky with these first-round receivers.
I think that's
I want a
thing.
bigger, more physical guy who can also run routes.
So what are some?
But I would be fine with Addison.
Yeah.
I wouldn't argue that for a second. He is a supreme talent.
Do you have any names?
I like
that
the
you
SMU kid.
Okay.
I like Rashee Rice a lot. 6'2", 203, and he's got route running ability. High volume pass catcher there at SMU. I realize it's a wide open offense. They don't play a lot of defense in his conference, so guys are running free a lot. Didn't see a ton of press coverage, which is usually the case for a lot of college receivers, but I just like the combination of physical size, strength, guy that can run through tackles, and his catchability, route running ability, and all of that. I don't think he's as highly graded a prospect as Addison. So, look, don't get me wrong. I'd be over the moon if they can get a guy like Addison. I just see him off the board in like the first 15, 16 picks.
Yeah, you wonder if he's going to be around at 20. Another position that was mocked to the Bills, we saw a linebacker in the first crop of mock drafts that we tracked. The different position in this round, a tight end to the Bills at number 27. Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State. There's a couple of tight ends that are really great tight ends that are in this year's NFL draft.
Steve and I were talking about it on our Bills by the Numbers podcast this week in terms of the position group we're most interested in getting our eyeballs on when we get to the combine. Steve said receiver, obvious there, but I said I really want to see what these tight ends look like because they're already labeling this tight end class as special in terms of the talented pass catchers that it offers. I've seen as many as 5 ranked in the top 50, 10 ranked in the top 100. That is unheard of. at the tight end position. So I think it affords Brandon Beane and his personnel department the opportunity to pivot to that position if
Yeah,
they
would
don't
you
like the
entertain it?
value at wide receiver. So, like, let's just say you're down there at 27 and the value at receiver just flat out isn't there. Do you trade out and slide back to a place where you do think there is value at wide receiver, or do you stay where you are because there is uncommonly good value at a position like tight end, which you could argue with this crop could help you just as much in the passing game as a receiver could, you know, at the top end of the draft? I think it's a worthwhile thing to consider, you know, at the bottom of round one.
George Kittle comps, Travis Kelce comps to some of these guys. I mean, you could convince me into being excited about the Bills taking a tight end in the first round if it's the right guy, and you start to think about what could this offense look like when you're truly playing a lot more 12 personnel in certain packages.
Right, and Musgrave can really move. Like, he is, I look at him as more of a tight receiver than I do a tight end. He's like a hybrid type, and he didn't have a great Senior Bowl week by all accounts, but I attribute that a little bit to the rust factor. He only played 2 games this past year. He was out with an injury. So you think about how long he's gone without playing competitive football, and then he gets thrown into a Senior Bowl, which he willingly accepted the invite because I think he knew I missed almost my whole season.
Yeah,
I got to get on the
might as well.
field and show people I can compete. Didn't have the best week, but I think there's enough tape there to be convinced as to what his ceiling and potential could be. So, yeah, I think he's going to hear his name called certainly within the top 50 picks somewhere. And, yeah, the guy can move. Like, that Oregon State offense, when they needed a play, they went to him, not a receiver. And more often than not, he delivered when he was healthy and on the field. So, and he's just one of a number of guys at the tight end position in the draft. I know a lot of people are high on the Mayer kid from Notre
Michael
Dame
Mayer.
because he's seen as a complete tight end. He's 265
Guy
pounds
who can block.
and can block, line up with his hand on the ground, which is harder and harder to find these days at the college level because they got all these guys running routes now, standing up at the line of scrimmage, detached out wide, and Musgrave's one of those types. Mayer is a throwback.
I mean, how many times did we hear for this offense 68 reports as eligible? Bobby Hart.
Yeah.
So
you wouldn't have to do that with
yeah.
a guy like Mayer.
Would it be better to have somebody like Mayer to be able to do that when you need him to, but also be able to line out wide or line up wherever to be able to catch some balls from Josh Allen? The other running back who is mocked to the Buffalo Bills, Todd McShay's mock draft, Brownie. ESPN's Todd McShay, a guy who knows a lot about the NFL draft. Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama.
Yeah, I saw that. And again, I'm just like, okay, he's a great player. I just think you could do a whole lot more to improve your running game by improving your offensive line. I really think James Cook is a dynamic player. And we saw flashes of that this past year. But I think if you improve your offensive line with talent, he'll look even better next year. Not to mention Nyheim Hines and whoever else they got lining up back there. I say improve your line to make your run game better, not the running back position with a high draft choice.
I'm completely on board with that, and that's what it showed in the latest round of the mock draft watch. 8 offensive linemen being mocked to the Buffalo Bills at number 27.
All right, so Mock Draft Watch 2.0 will be up on BuffaloBills.com late next week. Be sure to keep an eye out for it, and right up until the draft, as Maddy will be putting out future editions of that as we get closer and closer to late April.